Yo, what is up, guys? I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. As always, it is a beautiful freaking day in Florida where it's not too hot, not too cold. So I'm feeling really, really good today. And today is my favorite day of the week. We are working on pushing exercises because I worked on pulling exercises last time. And now it's time to get in some pushing. And I can actually don't have any more soreness, so I'm going to be working on my planches and maltises today, which is like one of my super major goals of improving on and refining and just unlocking like god level strength on my rings. So that's gonna be really fun. Holy cow, did I bring my rings? Hold on. Did I bring my rings? Let me check my bag real quick. Oh yeah, my rings are in my backpack. Okay, I see them back there. Yeah, I would have cried if I did not have my rings. I would have cried. Then I hit the gas there while our car's in park. Hopefully I don't break my car. But what do you call it? So I am gonna be working on some planche and maltese today, which I like. If you guys don't know what that skill is, I'll cue the B-roll now. Yeah, so cue the B-roll. You guys will see some planches and malteses there in the background. It's probably one of my favorite skills. It's most people, it looks very simple, but it takes like years of training to be able to achieve that skill. If you're into calisthenics, you know that very well. I'm gonna be doing number one exercise I'm gonna be doing is Zanetti presses, which is like passing from a back lever into a maltese into planche. Be working on a couple of those. Then also gonna be working on some planche push-ups because I truly want to get those better. Also going to be working on, I don't know, I know I'm going to be doing my Zanetti presses. I know I'm going to be doing my planche push-ups. And then everything else besides that, I'm probably going to do supplemental work. Might do a little bit of handstand push-ups, do some handstand play, one-arm handstand work. That should be in the mix or in the gist. And then also some hip flexors, some dreaded hip flexors. If you saw my last video where I was working on hip flexors, I was freaking in like tears. I wasn't in tears, but my body was in tears because my hip flexors are weak. They're weak as fuck, and I do not like to training on my hip flexors. It's really tough, but it's something I just got to get better at. And I did learn some new exercises. I was coaching yesterday, and one of my homegirls named Kate, she's freaking amazingly strong, an amazing freaking gymnast. So she gave me some really good exercises to work on my hip flexors, and we were like trying them. And one of my friends who has really strong hip flexors and she can usually like kick super high, she was trying the exercise and she could not move her legs the way she normally does doing the exercises. And I was like, oh, let me try this. And I could not even lift my legs off the ground. So I'll try to do some of those today, show you guys how those look. And also in the future, by next week, like after Christmas, my mic is coming in. So once my mic comes in, I'm gonna be talking during my workouts, so I don't have to do any B-roll and kind of explain what I'm doing. Kind of went through that in my last few videos where I was like talking, and I just wanted to give you guys a gist of what I was doing in the workout or whatnot, and I had to do voiceovers. And sometimes after the workout, when I'm editing content, I just really can't think about what I was going through mentally. Oh man, savages out here. They really want that green light. What do you call it? So I can talk to you guys more mentally about what I'm going through or what I'm thinking about during the workouts. Whether I was like ego lifting and try to push myself too hard and probably should take it a little bit easier, or whatever the case may be. So I can give you guys a little bit of feedback. So this should be a really good workout. I'm really excited for today. And I haven't been excited for a workout in a little bit because did HIIT training, did legs this week. Haven't hit any pushing exercise like I wanted to besides the endurance push-ups that really offset my week. I did not think 200 push-ups would offset my week, but really, you got to listen to your body. Really got to listen to your body. I'm a big advocate of that. I'm hesitating right now because there have been a couple moments in the last couple months, like the month or so, where I haven't really listened to my body really well. I'm actually dealing with a left wrist injury, and it's been prevalent for probably like 2-3 years, and it just does not want to go away, and it does not want to subside, and it is the bane of my existence. And for a long time, it got ridiculously manageable, like ridiculously manageable. Like it was there, I noticed it was there, but I knew how to like work around it. But then it was like in this last month or so that it started like flaring up again, and it started getting heavily annoying. And one of my friends, she was like, why don't you just go get it checked out? And I'm like, man, I don't want to go get it checked out. I don't want to be in a cast. I don't want to deal with like all the doctor stuff and all that nonsense, and then having to pay for a doctor to just say, oh, we're gonna get you an x-ray, and then you're gonna get me an x-ray, and then you're like, oh, we can't see anything on the x-ray. No shit, Sherlock, you can't see anything on the x-ray, because I'm pretty like 95% sure it deals with my tendons or something inside the joints, and you cannot see that in the x-ray. So no shit. So then you're gonna send me to go get an MRI, and then I'm gonna go get so I'm gonna have to pay for an x-ray, then go get the MRI, then to pay for the MRI, then have to go to a specialist. I'm like, damn, why don't you just send me to a specialist that can probably, or just go to a specialist to begin with, or maybe I can go to a physical therapist, and if the physical therapist can check out ranges of motion, but they won't really know what's going on in there. So I just don't feel like dealing with all that. Maybe that's very manly of me, because I like, not in a bad way, but I feel like us guys, sometimes we deal with pain, we're like, nah, I'm good, I'm all right. So I'm not gonna go to the doctors. I'm surviving, I can manage. So I think in 2024, if it's still prevalent in the first few months of 2024, I think for the first time I'm gonna have to like just suck it up and professionally get something done about it, just get it looked at. My biggest fear is that surgery or something along those lines, something degenerative, and they're like, yo, you really should have gotten this taken care of earlier or something. That's always the worst case scenario. You're like, nah, I hope that joint ain't serious. I don't want to slow down or whatever. And if I can't use my hands, I really don't know how I'm going to train. I really don't know how I'm going to train without my hands. I think I'm going to end up having to train one-arm handstands, and that's pretty much it. I don't think there's anything else I could pretty much do. So like I said, I'm dealing with this left wrist injury, and I will modify slightly. I don't have to modify too much. Usually all my work on rings is usually pretty straightforward and usually doesn't mess with me, but anything that's on flat ground is just kind of painful. And up to recently, parallel bars never ever used to bother me, but for the first time ever in my life, parallel bars hurt my wrist. And to me, when I realized that like a few weeks ago, that was very sad. Like that hurt my heart, that hurt my inner calisthenics heart. And so I'm really hoping that it's gonna get better. I'm gonna warm up, make sure I do my warm-ups, and make sure I do all my wrist strengthening exercise before I begin today. Same thing as I always go through. I'll show you guys a little bit of that, like probably do a quick super sped through video so you guys can get an idea of what I do. Then from there, we're gonna hit that workout. We're gonna do some hip flexors, should stretch a little bit, because I did stretch a lot yesterday, but I want to double down on the stretching, probably stretch a little bit more today, work on my splits and everything like that. If you guys saw some of that in the last video, mobility is very big for me. Like I said, the whole entire title of this vlog series is strength and mobility, sprinkled with some boxing on the side. I don't know if you guys saw that boxing the other day. Actually, I posted that today, or depends on when you see this video. So but I posted the boxing stuff today, which is Friday, earlier today, and you guys saw my horrible jump roping. Actually, that was one of the comments I got, was jump roping can be really tough. And jump roping, I just got good at jump roping the last year. So if you guys do see that video, or when you guys get a chance to see that video, go laugh at my jump roping capabilities. It's not the best, and hopefully I'll get better at it. But all right, I'm at the gym, just pulled up, gonna freaking down some pre-workout, go freaking crush this workout, finish any last minute holiday shopping I gotta do, and then enjoy the rest of my freaking weekend going into this freaking Christmas Monday. I hope you guys have a good one. Let's freaking crush it. Let's go crush this workout. All right, guys, so jumping straight into that warm-up, first thing I do is grab some 10 to 15 pound dumbbells, keep it really light, and then I start doing some wrist flexion, making sure I go all the way through my fingertips, all the way curling up my wrist as much as I can, just to get a really, really good pump in the forearms and get my muscles warmed up and activated and ready to rock. Then from there, I get into some wrist extension, and you'll notice that anytime I do these exercises, I'm gonna always keep my arms on my knees. That way I'm not using my biceps or cheating and using my shoulders, and I really like to take my time, try to really feel those 15 to 20 reps. Then from there, I get into some radial deviation where it's just like a hammer curl, except it's just for your wrist. And you could already see my forearms are like lighting up like a Christmas tree right now. And you really want to do this to increase the synovial fluid movement within your wrist. That way your wrists are not rubbing against each other in a weird way, especially if you're going to be on your hands a lot. Then from there, we get into some wrist pronation and supination. And this one I like to move nice and slow. You grab the weights from the end. That way it puts a little bit more pressure on the wrist. This one burns a lot, especially if you did the other exercises first. From there, I kind of started massaging out my forearms just to see if there was like anything that felt a little bit weird, anything that felt a little bit tight, just to really like help those muscles like loosen up a little bit. That way I'm not getting any extra tension within the wrist or within the wrist joint. My son is actually dealing with a lot of wrist pain right now, and one of the biggest things we're doing for him is massaging his forearms. Also, if you are on your hands a lot or you are heavy into calisthenics, I highly suggest that you guys get some wrist wraps. Wrist wraps are a way to add added protection onto your wrist, and it takes some of the pressure off the wrist joint, especially when your wrist is in wrist extension. So pretend that you're holding your hand up to say stop to somebody, and during handstands and stuff like that, it can really bother your wrist. So I highly suggest you guys get some wrist wraps. Now getting into my favorite part of the workout, the ring work. I grab a resistance band, put it around my waist, which is where your center of gravity is. I highly suggest that if you're learning planches and malteses, you never put the weight around your feet. And I proceeded to do some Zanetti presses. I did about 4 sets of this, anywhere from like 3 to like 6, 7 reps. And then on this first set, I did realize that my body alignment was just a little tiny bit off. So on the subsequent sets, I really try to focus a little bit on bettering my form. And I just think it's because I was not fully warmed up. And whenever I do planches or malteses, I always realize that my first set is not my best set. And I always finish off with a hold at the end. So you'll see me doing my little maltese hold there at the end until failure. Getting into the second set, I started feeling a little bit stronger. So of course I reduced the weight on the resistance bands, got some really good presses. I like that my arms are locked on every single set, on every single rep, and it looks really good. The only thing that I could have probably done better is trying to get my shoulders almost level with the bottom of the rings. That is really hard to do, and I didn't realize it until I did my last and final set. So here on the next set, I reduced the resistance band again, which makes it a lot harder. I did realize that my elbows, they could have been a little bit more locked out. I feel like my arms were like 98% straight, like 95% straight, and I was only able to get like three reps on that very light band. And then I proceeded to do one more set with that really light band, really focusing on trying to keep my arms straight. And I couldn't really hit the full range of motion that I wanted, but I did like that my arms were a lot straighter. And then of course finishing with the Maltese hold at the end until failure. Now, once I was done with that, I just did some basic holds using a heavy resistance band. So here I'm just gonna hold my planche as long as I can. I had some trouble getting the balance, so you'll see me drop my legs. Anytime my legs drop is usually just due to a lack of balance. And then from there, I started dropping into the Maltese. And I felt really, really good about this. It looked very good. And I did some small little presses in between, some small Zanetti presses. And I think it was about that time that I realized that I was not low enough in my Malteses. So I think on the next 2 sets, I really focused on when I did my Maltese, really trying to get as low as possible. So here, planche is looking really, really, really good. And then I drop into the Maltese, and then I'm like, oh, that's kind of high. My body's really level because I can barely see my feet, so I know that looks good. And then on this very next set, you'll see on this next set, I did 1 extra set just because I was like, yo, I am not low enough. And it was during this set that I was really happy with what it looked like. I got a little bit lower, and then you could see my shoulders. I looked to the side to see where I'm at, and I was like level, and that looked like a straight line. That is exactly where I want to be at. I think when I go from now on, I'm gonna start with doing the holds just a little bit so I understand where I should be in the position, then proceed to do the actual Zanetti presses or the actual reps. Next, I got into some planche push-ups, aka the push-ups without using your feet. I felt like these were really, really good. I was getting really good lockout at the top. My body line was pretty damn straight. I broke the body line just a little bit, And I think that my shoulders were just kind of tired a little bit from doing all the ring work from before. But the thing is that when you're working on the rings do sap a lot more of your energy just due to the balance factor. And when you're on like parallels or just a straight bar, it makes it a lot easier for you not to have to waste that energy in balancing. And usually when I do this exercise, I usually do it with my parallettes parallel, but because my wrist is hurting, I did it like a straight bar movement where it looks like the parallettes are making a straight line. In this second set, I really loved how I was able to keep my line the entire time, and I was using a lighter resistance band. When I did do these exercises or the planche push-ups, I was going till failure. I hit like 4 sets, 6 to 8 reps every single time, and I just really loved just my lines were looking good, squeezing, getting the lockout on every single one. I probably could have gone a little bit lower trying to get my chest to the ground, but I was just overall happy that I was like able to bust these out a little bit better than usual. Then, of course, I did 2 last sets of just basic holds, and I really focused on body position. And here you'll see that I have the roundness to my back, which is considered a hollow body position. And that by far is something that's really, really hard for me to do. And then I joked around, messed around with the fingertip planche, and fingertip planches don't bother my wrist. If I would have had my hands flat on the ground, it would have been extreme pain. So I was like, let me try my fingertips. And I was able to do it a little bit, but the balance was extremely hard. So you're probably wondering, what is this crazy setup I have going on here? So this is the setup for Pseudo Maltese presses. And what it really does is not let you use your biceps or expose your biceps to doing planche presses and Maltese presses. So you can really just focus on body alignment and as well as shoulder strength. This is really, really good for learning, well, not learning, but for increasing your press handstand strength. Because when you're doing this exercise, there's not a lot of balance required. Like there's a little bit of balance required to make sure you don't fall over, but a lot of it is just working on body alignment and then also the shoulder strength. Like your shoulders will be burning when you do this exercise. For this exercise in particular, I did 3 sets and I mainly focused on the negative. So it's really easy for me to do a tuck raise. So I raised up with my knees and my belly. So that's considered a tuck position. And then I focused on the negative or coming down very slow in the full position. A full position is anytime you have your legs fully extended away from your body, and it increases the amount of pressure put on the joint. You can imagine it as holding a book that weighs like 10 pounds close to your body. It's pretty simple. And then from there, if you move the book away from your body, it's going to become a lot heavier because it requires more leverage to actually hold up the book. So it's the same thing when we're doing calisthenics. You can use different bodily positions to increase or decrease the amount of leverage required to complete the exercise. When I did that rep right there, you're going to notice that I went, instead of coming down in a full, where legs fully straight, I had my knees, just my knees bent, but my hips flat. Of course, that's a slightly easier progression than the full variation. And then I always finish off with as many presses as I can do in the tuck position. On my last 2 sets, I really did focus on trying to hold myself parallel to the ground, almost like an actual Maltese, and trying to see if I could hold that for a little bit. It was really, really tough, but of course, just gave it my best shot, and then took a couple seconds to breathe, and then got right back into it. Went for another full variation, then came down really slowly, and then any time that it was a little bit too tough, all I did was just change the bodily progression or the body position. That way it was a little bit easier for me. Also in the background, I don't know if you guys noticed, there's some of my friends who are B-boys, and they're like doing all the craziness in the background. My homie in the back over there with the pink shorts, his name is David, aka B-Boy Kovu. He's an amazing freaking B-boy. And then I got my other boy over there, Gabriel, and he like dances for the Orlando Magic, and he just got into doing a whole bunch of B-boy work. He is an amazing tumbler. Like if you don't know what a tumbler is, it's someone who like flips around and does like lines of flips. I think his background is cheerleading, but he's picked up B-boying over like the last like 8 to like 10 months, and he is totally crushing it, training with my boy Kovu almost all the time. They try to get me involved in it a little bit, but I'm like, with my wrist, B-boys are constantly on their hands, constantly over there on their hands. Look at me miring. So I usually turn down their offers. So next, of course, working on some mobility. I was working on some core compression and doing my 2 yoga blocks of doing piked hip raises, really trying to pull my hips up into my body. This one's really tough on the abs and also on the hip flexors as usual. And I did feel like I'm getting a little bit better at it because I was able to pump out more reps and not have to like walk it back out and then pump my hips up. So I did do this in my last video. So I'm only going to show you guys like one set of it, but I did really good today. And it was very challenging as usual because I just have weak hip flexors. And of course, it'll get better in time. If you actually look closely and look at my shirt, you can see my abs protruding, and it's actually because I started catching really bad abdominal cramps. And I'm notorious for catching cramps, but had waited 5 minutes and then got right back to work. So the next exercise I got into is seated leg raises, but in a pike position. And I have a yoga block against my back to make sure my back is flat against the wall. This was the exercise that my friend showed me, and it is really tough. I can only lift my foot about like 6 to 7 inches off the ground. And if you really look at that position, that looks like the position of an L sit. And if I try to raise my legs any higher to try to get like a V sit, my legs are not raising. So I have a really long way to go in trying to achieve my goal of being able to do a V sit, or maybe even one day an I sit, and maybe one day, maybe in like 5 years, 10 years, maybe even a mana, just like my son. So I did 3 sets of this, about 12 to 15 reps. And of course, my quads were cramping a little bit, went through the quad pain again. And I just did as best as I could, just really focusing on the squeeze and making sure I did feel it in my hip flexors, especially on my left side. If you guys have heard me in the last few videos, my left hip flexor is just a lot weaker than my right hip flexor. So I really try to focus on what I'm feeling on my left hip flexor more than my right hip flexor. And there goes that mind to body connection. It's not the most important thing in the world, but I feel like when you really want to make sure you're doing an exercise correctly, especially unilaterally or on one side, you really want to focus on what you're feeling and making sure what you feel on one side of your body is the same thing that you're feeling on your other side. And I like to use my dominant side as an indicator of what I should be feeling. That way, when I do it on my weaker side, I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling it so much. Man, I need to squeeze a little bit more. I want to make sure I get that same exact muscle activation so that way I can get the same gains on both sides of my body. So next, I got into my most favorite exercise ever. I know you guys can hear the sarcasm, but seated straddle leg raises. And it takes all of my focus. Like you can see me like staring down my legs, really gritting my teeth, trying to lift my legs up as high as possible. And it was just really tough. I think this exercise is always tough for me. Every time that I'm going from the inside outward, I feel it on my external glutes, like the outside of my butt, and it just it just burns. It burns there. It burns my hip flexors. Sometimes I think right there I started rushing a little bit too much. I should really be trying to like feel it, and I'm like my legs are cramping at this point. I'm like shaking my legs, really just trying to get the exercise over and done with. I did about 3 sets, 12 to 15 reps as usual, and every time I do this, it does take my soul. Like it is a really tough exercise. There was a couple times I did knock over the yoga block, and that like threw off my concentration. And it's I challenge you guys to try this exercise. Some of you guys might be really good at it. Some of you guys might suck at it, and you guys might catch instant cramps. Because when I first started doing this exercise, it was like at 0.5 reps cramp, and like I had to get used to it. But give it a go. Hopefully you guys can increase your core compression as well. Of course, I finished up my workout this time with a little bit of stretching. I was really happy that I did get to my stretching this time. I stretched for about like 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes, which is a really long time for most people. Even though I was trying to rush and trying to get through my stretches as fast as possible, it did still take a long time. Also there, I noticed that my hip external rotation is just really bad. I have really a lot of trouble doing butterfly stretch. So something, again, I have to get better at. My straddle is really small. I really want to increase the width of my straddle, and it's actually made a hell of a lot of progress. I was nowhere near there before. My hamstrings are getting better. I am getting a little bit more flexible in my hamstrings. And even though I am flexible in my hamstrings, I still have a lot of trouble with L-sits. It's just mainly because I lack the strength in that position. And also my lower back is just always extremely tight. And then here I started going through my split sequence where I first start with a lunge stretch, then go into a straight hamstring stretch where I just reach down, really try to get that stretch. Then from there, I go into my splits and try to hold my splits for a little bit. And then I, of course, proceed to do the other side. And this is my weaker side or my less flexible side. So I usually stretch it a little bit longer. And typically speaking, I usually start off with my weaker side first. That way I don't try to give my good side a little bit of extra attention, because usually once I do one side, I'm like trying to rush through the second side because I just don't want to do it again. Also here, I'm really big on opening my shoulders before I do any bridge work. So I'll do the shoulder opening, cat stretch, and then I'll also stretch out my upper back. And every time I stretch out my upper back or try to bend my upper back, it really does bother a lot. So I do that a couple times, like in sets, before I do my bridges. And I am noticing that my bridges are getting a lot better. I am able to open my shoulders, and I can almost get my shoulders to my hands now, which is come leaps and bounds. And of course, we gotta finish off the workout with a pump flex. And I am looking crazy today because I did abs. My abs are popping like crazy. My abs were cramping earlier, so they're a little tight or whatnot. My shoulders looking really good, really popping. So really happy with the overall pump that I got from this workout. Looking really shredded. I am taking creatine right now, so it makes me look a little bit bigger than I probably usually am, but I'm a big advocate of taking creatine. I think creatine is one of the best supplements that you can take because it is one of the most studied supplements on the face of the planet with the most clinical research behind it. The only reason why I would suggest you not taking creatine is if you have any pre-existing health conditions that deal with kidneys or anything like that, or you just got to talk to your doctor about it. All right, guys, so I just finished up that gym session, and I think it was a really, really successful gym session. I got to work on exactly what I wanted to work on. I wanted to get a little bit more volume there at the end, but I just decided to just get straight into doing hip flexors and stretching because I didn't want to stretch, and I didn't want to work on hip flexors. And the instant that I told myself that I don't want to do it, I'm like, that's what I got to go do. I've gotten into this notion that every time I feel like I don't want to do something, that's the immediate moment that I have to go do it, because I want to be able to like mentally overcome like my internal mechanisms that try to like just bitch out and be like, nah, don't do it. So like I just had to go and like stop because I wanted to do like a few more exercises. I wanted to do some dumbbell planche flies, and then also some shoulder press. And I was just like, nah, fuck that. Just go do what you got to do. Go do your stretching. Go do your hip flexors. And that is exactly what I went and did. And I'm happy I got it done. It sucked. It was horrible. I was like contemplating life. Every time I say hip flexors, in the very next sentence, I'm gonna say contemplating life, because I do not like working hip flexors. That if there's any person in this world who likes working hip flexors, you are a masochist and evil, and I do not understand. I do not understand it. But like I said, I'm gonna keep working hard to try to get better at it. I was just talking to my friend Brittany yesterday about it, and she mentioned that I was like, yeah, in 2 to 3 months, I'm gonna see how much further I get. And then she's like, are you sure 2 to 3 months? She's like, you sure? It might even take you longer than that. It might take you a year. And I was like, I like sucked my teeth a little bit, like I just did. And I was like, hell no, this joint ain't taking a year to get better. But I had to really, 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 really think about it, about how tight my hip flexors are and where I'm at. And real talk, that shit might take a year. It might really take a year. But I have to be willing to put in the work and disregard about how long it's gonna take, and just still put in that work. And honestly, I just don't care how long it takes for my hip flexors to get stronger and I can do more advanced pressing, core compression capabilities. I really don't care at this point. I guess we already started the race. So the race, we can't stop now. Especially when it comes to exercise and achieving certain skills or certain levels of strength. Once I've like put my heart on it, I don't care how long it takes. I just keep working on it until it just happens. So it just is what it is. I don't care if it takes a year. If it takes 2 years, then so be it. I'll work on it as much as need be. Like I said though, really good work with all the shoulder strength. I liked the way everything looked on rings. There was a couple sets that my body position wasn't exactly where I wanted to, but I did check the camera and it helped me adjust a little bit. So if you guys do calisthenics, I highly suggest that you guys record yourself and look at what you're doing. That way you get a good idea of what you're engaging, what you're not engaging, how to adjust. Is the progression you're doing a little bit too hard? Is it a little bit too easy? Should you modify? So those are some really important things. And like I said, it was a really good session. I got really good reps in. I felt a little bit stronger than I thought I would be. So especially I haven't trained planche and maltese this week. It's only been legs, boxing, back day, and now a push day. If typically speaking, I do try to get 2 push days in during the week, but I usually combine my push days with my pull days. And like I said, that just wasn't capable this week because of how sore I was. But I don't care. Still got some gains in this week. Everything looks good. My physique was looking really good. I don't know. I looked at myself in the mirror and I felt like I looked a little bit more shredded than I usually do. I have no clue why. Maybe just because this week I've been working a little bit harder, or maybe because I did a little bit of cardio the other day, or it could be the creatine. I don't know. I saw a couple of my friends in the gym like, yo, you look jacked. I'm like, it's the creatine. I really don't know. Just been working hard. So I hope you guys found some value in that. Right now I'm about to go pick up my son and we're about to go out for like ice cream. So I'm gonna go replace my sugars and have a little cheat day. But we always do our little ice cream Friday. So I'm gonna go enjoy myself for the rest of the day and then get into this holiday weekend. I'm gonna see if I can get one more workout in before Christmas. Don't know if it's gonna happen, but if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The most important thing, guys, I'm gonna try. Hopefully you guys see this video before the holidays. And if you guys do see it before the holidays, Merry Christmas. I hope you guys have a safe, very safe holiday season. I do understand that some people go into this holiday season and they don't get to see next year because there's just a lot of drinking and there's just a lot of things going on at this time of the year. So it's with my deepest wishes that you guys have a very safe holiday season. Enjoy the time with your families. Put all the scuffles and all the things in the past, put it to the side and just really enjoy each other's company. And I'll see you guys in the next video.